Perfect. All right. What's going on? Mr. Matty Moses here, bringing you guys an interview with Ark of Destiny Lab. Also goes by Arkalogik. And just here to pick his brain. I got a lot of questions as a fan of his work. And we'll just see where it goes from there. Thanks for being on the show, Ark.
You bet, man. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate you asking me to come on.
Well, this is really great. I wanted to thank. I want to make sure I get this right too. As I thank the Living Soil for recommending that. I listened to you in the first place from one of the Music Matters I did on. It was the conspiracy theorists. Is that what it was? And then
Okay.
yeah, I think the
Yeah.
conspiracy theorists. The first shall be last. That was the one that they
Nice.
commented that and recommended you guys. And I tried to go through the viewers' recommendations, and I finally got to you. The first one I heard was the Unseen Zones. Yeah, Unseen Zones. Love that one.
Okay. Yep.
That one hits. Yeah, that one is so cool. And I saw that you did the remix of that one just this
Yep.
year.
Yep. Just put out a remix on January 1st of that song. So yeah.
Okay, and then so remix is that you remixing it yourself? Is that Genetics remixing it?
No, that's me remixing it. Genetics and I both, I guess, got together and made the beat. Sometimes we make beats together. Sometimes he does it on his own. Then we get together and retweak it. But we kind of sat down and made this one together because we wanted to match it up with kind of the original feel, but totally different. Uh, so yeah, we did that one together.
Okay, that's so cool. That's so cool. And that's one of the first tracks, right? That's on the original Sin.
Yep. That's on the original Sin, and that's one of our more popular tracks. It really is kind of our music in a nutshell. Really, it kind of deals with all the different topics we talk about in that song, and kind of is it's a good song to represent Destiny Lab, I guess you'd say.
That's a good way to put it. That's how I felt about it too as I was listening to it. You do touch on all these different topics, and I have questions that I want to ask you about that one. I'm excited to get to those questions and get to them too, because I make a little music myself, so it's neat to see where other people come from for their inspiration for their music and what they write. But yeah, I feel like that one really hits. You guys hit so many different of the conspiracies or different topics.
Yeah.
Um, I know. Okay, so you say that you have it written that you've been doing music, creating music for over 20 years. But like, how old were you when you first started having an interest? Would you say then in music? Was it before, like, yeah? What would
And
you
I
say?
totally remember the first time I ever heard any kind of rap music. I was about in fifth grade, and it was New Edition's "Candy Girl," and
Okay,
that's the first song I'd ever heard that ever had any type of a rap kind of a feel to it. And actually, I went to a really small. I live in a very small town in Oregon, and we had a new pastor come to our church, and this pastor was from California, and he had a couple teenage kids, and his son was totally a break dancer into hip hop. He was like the coolest guy I'd ever seen in my life. Coming from a small town, and he
okay,
came from California, and he just had all this information and music and really into the latest trends type of thing, which I was kind of unaware of in a small town. So I really kind of grasped onto that. I got really into breakdancing. We created our own breakdancing group, me and my buddies, and uh, started just getting into the whole hip hop. I get they really I didn't hear people call it hip hop back then. Now in the '80s, people just called it rap, but I guess it was called hip hop as well. We just called it rap though, but.
okay,
Uh, but yeah, no, we were just really into it. Small town white boys.
right?
Trying to break dance and listen to the cool hip hop music. So,
That's so
but I
funny.
never sought out to actually be a rapper. I'm not the type of guy that necessarily likes to be in the center of attention or whatever. But I loved making music with my friends and whatnot,
Okay.
and I kind of went through a whole journey of making music, and then I didn't make music for almost 10 years, and then through my conviction and my journey, I felt like kind of convicted to come back and make music about these things that I was researching and studying.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, yeah, like you're saying about the conviction, or you're almost compelled to make the music. It's
Yeah.
inside of you. You're just like, I have to do this. I had a similar musical well, journey where it was being, this was like freshmen, juniors in high school, small town, graduating
Hmm.
class of probably like 60 people, and
Hmm.
a couple, there were like three or four of us, white guys, just we'd freestyle at lunch, and sometimes it'd be silly stuff, or it'd be, I'd like to have someone throw me a word, and I'd try and rhyme with it, and mess around like that, get people involved, but
Yeah, nice.
it was, oh, thanks. It was fun. I mean, I have an album. My first rapper name was Celtic Ruin, for what, or oh god, I
Been a
guess I
House
have.
of
What
Pain fan.
was that?
You're a House of Pain fan.
Yeah, big time for sure. Oh my gosh, if you hear my earlier stuff, I rip off so much. I steal the beats. I rap exactly like Everlast. Like it's so yeah.
Nice.
I purposely don't show people too much of that. Only my close friends know about Celtic Ruin.
Oh, I know what you mean, man. I remember my early stuff. I was totally into. My favorite groups were Third Base. Was
Sure.
the group I could really relate to.
Yes. Yes.
Because they were white dudes, and I really liked Pete Nice and his sort of laid back style.
Yeah.
And I've never been into dancing and jumping around on stage, all that kind of stuff. So I liked his kind of chilled, laid back style. He wasn't dancing around or anything. He was just walking around with a cane and just really chilled and laid back. So
Yes. Yes. And the storytelling, like those different elements of it, right? Or I always
yeah,
remember Third Base had that "Pop Goes the Weasel," right? Or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where they're kind of poking fun at
It's fine.
the
Vanilla Ice.
mainstream, what was being shown for rap, where it's like, hey, like there's more to it.
Totally,
I was,
totally. Yeah, I've always been into the underground stuff myself.
totally, totally, where there's a real message, right? Like I let you listen to some of the '90s, and I don't want to say it's rap or hip hop for people watching this, but like CNC Music Factory, where it's like the singing, and the
Yeah,
one guy kind of comes in and raps, but it's not, it's not rap, but
yeah,
it's like it's kind of funny. Yeah, not
exactly.
commercialized like that. So
Totally.
that's so cool. So it just goes way back. Okay, so what's one of the first songs you wrote? And this doesn't. It can be both. It can be I don't necessarily mean younger, but like what's one of the first songs you wrote that ended up on a Destiny Lab album? How about that? I put it that way.
The first song I ever wrote that was kind of geared toward kind of the stuff I'm talking about now was called The Sequel.
Okay.
And that's on one of my albums. I can't remember. I think it's on the Evolution Antidote, I believe. And
Yeah.
that's kind of
Let's go through
end
those.
times kind of tribulation kind of song. And then I made a song, and that's when I got really into. I was really into studying the creation evolution debate and exposing the lie of evolution and how that just keeps people from recognizing so many things, and it also creates all these false deceptions like the idea of aliens, and all this kind of stuff, which I myself was kind of deceived by. So,
Yeah.
uh, not that there couldn't be real aliens out there, but from what I've studied and looked into, the people that actually tell about abduction experiences, sleep paralysis, the actual tormenting of these beings for decades. It's a completely demonic thing because these people, when they recognize these things as demonic, they can rebuke them in the name and authority of Jesus, and they go away. And there's actual websites that are set up that specialize in this called like the CE4 Research Group, alienresistance.org. They
Okay.
have like over 350 testimonies of people that have gone through this, who suffered for decades being tormented by some sort of entity, either through sleep paralysis or through kind of these alien abduction experiences. And 9 times out of 10, they had, before they started having these experiences, they had been involved with the occult in some way, working with Ouija boards, tarot cards, seances, that kind of stuff. And that's what opens that doorway for these things to then uh, torment people a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
that's what's so interesting about it, is studying all these connections and seeing that you can actually connect the dots and make a real good case that this stuff is not just made up mythology. This is real, tangible things we're dealing with. And so that's kind of I was deceived by this kind of stuff myself, and so I just felt really compelled and, like I said, convicted to get out there and kind of present this stuff in a unique way.
Yeah. I agree. No, that's a really good breakdown. 'Cause, yeah, I feel the same thing. I almost feel like I've come full circle with aliens. You know, like when it wasn't a very popular opinion, then it's like, oh,
Hmm.
I could see the part where like, okay, they're hiding something from us. They're not telling the truth, you know, or it's, you know,
Yeah.
you buy into those, you know, those part of, you know, those lies or whatever they end up being. And then, yeah, I'm almost full circle where, you know, I even like some of the gear that you guys have on your website, which I'll put a link here into the chat for people to check out. But, you know, you even have that, like the anti-alien kind of stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a great approach, and I've definitely come to that. You know, where it could, okay, if it's interdimensional beings, or if it's, you
Hmm.
know, demons. I mentioned that in one of the songs I have too. You know, is I think, yeah, what do I talk about? It's like who built the pyramids, or is that just the technology of demons? Kind of things like that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, if you look back into what the Bible talks about, the fallen angels before the flood, were they, a third of the angels fell with Lucifer, and they were interbreeding with mankind and with animals during the before the flood. They're
okay,
creating hybrid creatures,
yeah,
and so that's the same storyline throughout time. If you look at like the stories of elves and fairies back in mythology of that time, it was the same story that these people would be suffer from like a sleep paralysis at night. These fairies would float them out of the room and take them to some underground abode with illumination they couldn't tell it was from, and start doing sexual things to them, and then create these hybrid creatures. So it's like the exact same storyline throughout time, but the costume just changes fit the belief system of whatever people they're trying to fool. And
sure,
because we believe in evolution and far off galaxies, it just only makes sense. There must be aliens on other planets, and they're much smarter than us, and they must have, information that can save us all and bring us all to one world unity type of thing. And so that's the stories you hear from these abductees, is they're told you're special. They always appeal to the ego, telling the person you're special, you've been chosen, you now have a mission to spread this information that we're all evolving, but we must look within. And they try to change who Jesus was. They try to change the Bible. That's like their main focus a lot of times. So it seems
yeah,
strange that if
yeah,
they're real aliens, why aren't they coming to give us world peace or cure cancer or something
yeah.
like that? Why are they trying to reform Jesus and rechange the Bible as their main agenda? That makes no sense
No,
if
and
they're true aliens.
that's such a really good point too, because and that's almost another thing I think I had to come full circle on too with evolution. So I hit a phase, you know, as you would joke, it's a phase with like, you know, black hair or this or metal, and I worked with
Sure.
guys that listen to death metal and were atheists, so it was really easy to, you know, okay, check out this, and you hear certain things, and I think it's an easy trap to fall into because it puts you in the middle, in the focus. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, you know, where it's like it's all about me, and one
totally.
one of them recommended the book the God Delusion, Richard Dawkins. I
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I made it past the first chapter because I read it, and I was reading it, and it was just some of the arguments didn't make any sense to me. But it's saying like it was like about the different flowers, and oh, there's so many different types of flowers. How could that be created by one person? You know, or like the arguments didn't make sense. I'm like, and then they always beat around the bush and never confront macroevolution, right? They will never
Exactly.
say
Yeah.
it, like you'll never be like, oh, how has a cat become a dog? They don't say that. They always
Yep.
it's always adaptation, and then that's
Yep.
under the blanket of evolution, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's their like get out of jail free card. I feel like,
Yeah, I mean that's why they have to have billions and billions of years,
yeah,
because that's long ago, far away. You can't actually check it out. And they're so interested in finding the missing link between humans and apes. What about the missing link between
yeah.
everything?
I think that's a great
Because
yeah, that's
they
such a
they
great
claim
point.
that everything comes from one single cell, and there's
Yeah,
no missing links between any animals or plants or anything. I mean, it's just unbelievable that people just take their brain out of their head
mm,
and just like, yep, okay, this is real, and it's just
yeah,
it's supernatural. It really is supernatural that people believe in something that's so unbelievably ridiculous and has no evidence. I mean, real science is supposed to be testable, verifiable, repeatable. And
yeah,
all they show, like you said, is microevolution. They show, dogs becoming different types of dogs.
sure,
Birds becoming different kinds of birds. It's like,
yeah,
duh. You know, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's called adaptation. It's called like if you two tall people have a baby, their baby's probably going to be tall. That's kind of common sense. That's not evolution.
Yeah,
And they're
right.
always going to be humans no matter how
Yeah.
much time passes.
Well,
It's just unbelievable.
it is. It is. I think unbelievable is a perfect word for it. Uh, I have like so many things I want to talk about, but I'm trying to play off of what we just saying about unbelievable. Now this is one thing, and I like for you to go wherever you go with this one, but I could go so many different places about unbelievable. So I remember like being younger. You're younger, you're a kid, you're in a museum, and you're fascinated with dinosaurs. But I remember the back of my mind being almost using that exact word, right? This is it, like it's unbelievable. Like I couldn't wrap my head around like, wow, there are these huge, these huge creatures, these other things. Like it was so wow, I can't believe that. Now, I didn't describe that very well, but in some of your songs you mentioned dinosaurs, and for me to bring it back to, I remember being younger and listening to and watching some of Kent Hoeven, some of his work, and that
Yeah.
opened my eyes to a couple of different things. And we can just go all over the place with this. I'm excited. We could old Earth versus like billions, or a young Earth,
Sure.
things like that. The existence of dinosaurs a little bit now. For me, one thing that had me questioning that was some of Eric Dubé's work, and even did a song about it, Prehistoric Rhetoric, and the book Bone Wars. But so I'm throwing a couple of different things at you all at once.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
what
no,
are your thoughts on all those things? Ken Hoeven, his work, Old Earth, New Earth, dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
where's your head
No,
at for
I'm,
all
I'm
those
a big
things?
fan of Kent Hovind. Actually, he's a big inspiration to a lot of my research early on. I was actually had my dad had VHS tapes of him. So I was like,
Sure.
"What's this?" And I was always into dinosaurs and the paranormal and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
actually taught myself. I was a specialist makeup artist, and at the age of 18, I moved to California to work in Hollywood and do all that kind of stuff. So that's where I got really caught up in the whole alien thing and believing aliens were the good guys. I wanted to be abducted and all this kind of stuff. But then I started hearing their message of what they kept telling people, and the message they kept always repeating was the original sin of the serpent. If you go back to the Garden of Eden, when the serpent deceived Eve, he said, "If you eat of this fruit, ye shall be as gods." And I believe that's when the idea of evolution began. The idea of evolution isn't some new thing that Darwin came up with. This
Okay.
idea has been around for thousands of years. This is what the mystery schools and the occult teachings have always taught. That's what magic teaches, that we can create our own reality, that we're growing into this higher and higher being. I mean, that's the idea of reincarnation, that you come back again and you're getting better and better and better. So this idea of getting better has always been around. Now, like going to the dinosaur thing, that's a really interesting study. I think a lot of people have looked into that of like, are going back to the fallen angels, were they interbreeding with animals, creating these hybrid creatures, these strange creatures? But if you actually look in the Bible, in the book of Job, and I have a song called "Remembered as Dragons" on one of my albums there.
Yeah.
It talks about it, very descriptive of dinosaur-like animals. That they're the greatest of his creations, and they're these giant creatures with tails like a cedar tree, and overlapping scales, and giant rows of teeth. It's like
Yeah.
it's definitely describing the dinosaur-like creatures. So,
Yeah.
and then you go into the dinosaurs don't exist movement, which if you investigate, was actually started by a group of atheists. This is a
Okay.
group of atheists that started a group called, it's actually a website called Christians Against Dinosaurs. And they did this as like a hoax joke because they kept hearing Christians saying, "We don't believe in evolution, billions of years of evolution." So they try to attach this ridiculous idea that dinosaurs just don't even exist
Sure.
to then all belief of creation. So if you're a creationist, you don't believe dinosaurs exist,
Right.
which is absolutely ridiculous. So that's how the enemy works: is they attach disinformation to real information.
Yeah.
So then any new researchers, any new people to investigating this stuff come to the field and they look up creation evolution that says dinosaurs don't even exist. And they're like, "What? Creationists must be nuts," and they
Right.
walk away from it. Now,
Yeah.
it is true that most dinosaurs in museums are all fake. I actually, being a mold maker and casting resins and all that kind of stuff, I'm very familiar with the mold making and casting process, and that mold, most of these dinosaurs are actual castings of either other dinosaur bones or actually just sculpted to fill in the gaps, because they rarely find a full dinosaur. They'll find bits and pieces,
Sure.
and they'll fill in the gaps to try to make it how they think these dinosaurs look. So there is a lot of fakery going on there, and some of these things have actually been changed throughout time, the poses and the way they think they're,
Totally.
stand and all that. So there is some fakery going on, but there's absolutely no question that you can go out into Utah desert and find teeth and bones yourself and dig up dinosaur bones, proving that there were once giant lizard-like dinosaurs. And so the idea that dinosaurs never exist, to me, is just disinformation and complete lie.
Okay, see, and I could see that too, because as you say that about the disinformation, that's what I love about this. This is such a great conversation to have with someone like-minded. I feel like, but I also, because you're saying that about, I got a couple different things. I remember the other thing I wanted to talk about is, I remember, 90s, I love grunge, and Alice in Chains has an album, The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here. An album, that's the name of the album, they got a song on there and everything. And like you said, I think they can use it as a blanket statement, if you're already under one belief system, and that's what you hear is the other side of the coin, is that, dinosaurs don't even exist, not even going to look into it, that'll turn off a lot of people. And it's actually kind of funny. I did this song, Prehistoric Rhetoric, and it was just kind of calling into question a lot of different things, because I saw this video through YouTube, and it was just new stuff, like you said, that they kind of had quote unquote discovered about dinosaurs. And one of the things they say is like T-Rex quacked like a duck, and I was just like, they just keep changing so much.
Yeah, have feathers and they don't know. They have no clue, and they are making stuff up. They're filling in the gaps.
Yes.
They want to make people feel like, oh, we're very sure of how all this stuff does. We're very aware of how all this stuff works billions of years ago, and they don't. Yeah, they don't have any clue.
They don't, and that's so true. They want us to think that they have it figured out, and then if you keep score and you're alive long enough. I'm only 34, so I've been there for Pluto was a planet, isn't a planet. I've been there for the stuff with dinosaurs. You grow up and you take your Flintstones multivitamins and they change it on you. I don't know what to.
No, there's a lot of disinformation going on for sure.
Yeah,
and that's but like I said, there's also we've got to be logical about it. We can't jump the gun. We can't you can't throw a baby out with the bathwater either. Yeah, so you gotta filter it. And that's the problem, is the enemy has implanted little tidbits of disinformation. Even if you look into the Nephilim, for instance, giant bones, which is a real thing. If you look into the giants of the Bible, it's a real thing. But then you start investigating the Nephilim, there's all these fake CGI pictures, or there's all these the idea of mud fossils, that these giant mountains are Nephilim and things like this. It's like these are like I said, these are stretched ideas. Sure. I'm not saying it's completely impossible. I'm open to all these ideas, just to show me information. But
I agree.
People cling on to this stuff and they jump onto it, and then every tree trunk, the Devil's Tower is a giant tree, and all this stuff that they're claiming.
Sure.
But they're not necessarily showing any research to back it up, and so it's just kind of like jumping on the bandwagon type of thing. So we have to be very careful. This stuff, it could totally be true, but it must be vetted each step of the way and fully investigated, and we can't jump on the bandwagon with any of this stuff, is my take.
I agree. I think that's a great way to look at it, a healthy way to approach it. It can be such a slippery slope. And I was looking through, because you had mentioned, and I have it on my phone, but it was the Remembered as Dragons was off of the original Sin.
Okay, yeah.
But just for people in the chat and seeing this stuff like that. And okay, so now what I wanted to go from too, this is just branching off of just what we've been talking about, is the idea of unicorns in the Bible and how it maybe was misinterpreted, or that it was like unicorn, one horn, as like rhinoceros or like original rhinoceros? Is that what? Because sometimes I've seen that as an attack where people will say, well, if the Bible is this, then you must believe in unicorns, ha ha ha, and they laugh at you. But where unicorn maybe would have been just a different creature at that time, kind of like with dinosaurs, right? Where we're saying it's to say that there were giant lizards, or if people were that big, maybe the atmosphere quote it would be different at that time. People things, the environment, everything was growing bigger. I don't know, but do you feel like that is something that's possible?
I mean, I think definitely there could have been, true unicorns, just as we described them, a horse with one horn. I mean, that's not totally unbelievable that a horse could have a horn. I mean,
yeah, I joke. I would even joke about it, and like now it's the way the internet is it's kind of already a joke. But like, is that really that unbelievable that there's a horse with a horn on it? Like that's the weirdest thing you could mythical thing you could come up with. Is a horse
I mean, a horse with wings may be a little bit more unbelievable. But,
more like Pegasus or things like that. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
a horse with a
you
horn on
you don't know all this stuff. I mean, especially going back to the fallen angels, the idea of the fallen angels, and they were interbreeding and manipulating DNA, and they were doing it in a way where they're actually even doing it with plants. So it wasn't just animals and humans; they were messing with all kinds of stuff and just changing the creation of God for their own, evil ways. And so that's the thing that they were doing, and that's the thing that it wasn't that it was necessarily done for tens and tens of thousands of years. It was done for maybe a few thousand years, so that there probably weren't necessarily billions of these things on the planet. And for something to become fossilized, it has to be a very rare set of circumstances where it's buried very quickly in mud and not eaten or torn apart. And so we know the Nephilim were actual cannibals, so they were like eating people, eating these creatures. So who knows what was actually left? And then with the whole worldwide flood, who knows, like I said, how much of that is stuff of natural origin, dinosaurs, and how much of that was the manipulation of these fallen angels. It's hard to say. It's open for debate.
No, definitely. That's great. This is all just off of one path even. That's not even I'll go more with back to the music almost more specifically, but when did you start interacting with genetics?
Okay, so I met genetics. I moved to Portland in around, I think, 1993. And
93, okay.
And so I think that's around when I met him. We started making music, and we were doing secular music. Just, I met him at a party, and he was like beatboxing, and I started rapping, and
oh, cool.
The rest is history. So we basically hit it off there, started hanging out, and just made music for fun. We never actually made an album or had a group name or anything. We just made music for fun together, and then we stopped making music. Actually, I got married, had a kid, started having a business, all this stuff. But that's when I actually started getting deep into this research.
Yeah.
And I felt like, wow, this stuff. And I also discovered there's this realm of, underground kind of Christian hip hop that kind of talked about some of the stuff, but they didn't really dig deep. They weren't really, they weren't really going into the really obscure fringe stuff. They were just kind of skimming the surface. So
sure.
And I wanted to dig deep and talk about all the stuff that people were afraid to talk about. So
yeah,
that's where I just felt I'm going to just do this independently. And I started making the music, and I put out I made more than 20 songs, probably close to 30 songs.
Wow.
And at that point I was looking for somebody to sign me, like some Christian label or something. And then I came to realize what I know now is that the Christian industry is basically controlled by a lot of the same people we're trying to expose, and they have no interest in having this stuff released through any of their labels. So it had to be done independently. And so I actually put my two first albums came out at the exact same time. Original Sin and Revolution Antidote were released at the same time.
Okay, because I noticed that I don't mean to interrupt, but I noticed that as I was going through 2011, right?
Yeah, okay. Because I was just making music, but I was waiting for somebody else to pick it up, and then I just realized, okay, I got to just put this out there, and that's why it's so jam-packed. I got 17 songs on each album.
Yeah.
So you definitely get your money's worth as far as how many songs. We put 17, 18 songs on all three of our albums, and this new fourth album as well has 17 songs on it. So So yeah, you get your money's worth and that's, I just wanted to put a lot of information out there and talk about the things that no one else is talking about.
Yeah.
And for several years, people were just like, "This is crazy. What are you talking?" Especially when I showed it to anyone Christian, they're like, "What
Sure.
is this stuff? What are you talking about?" Blah blah blah. And then more of these things became externalized. More of this information now is being studied and that used to be suppressed. And because it's being externalized, more people are aware. And so over the last, I'd say, 5 years, our music has really taken off in comparison to what it was, because we started back in early 2000s, and
Okay.
it's just recently taken off. I'm 48 years old, so I'm an old man for the hip hop game.
Yeah, for sure. But that the message and the truth, right? That's
Yeah, it's just all in God's timing. That's how long I had to go through that journey. I had to go through all this stuff to get to the point where I was like, okay, now I'm ready to present this. And so I don't think there's any expiration date on truth.
no, absolutely, and it takes as long as it takes for people to slowly wake up to it. You're mentioning you're in your 40s. My friend DMO, who's in the chat as DMO Entertainment, he's in his 40s too. So hopefully he can see that it gain that inspiration from you as well. Well, we recently did a song together, "Take a Stand," and there's so much going on in the world, whether to look at, and I think everyone has their own truth that wakes them up. A lot of people, I think, an easier one is diet. Once you realize sugar or so on, go okay, or the food pyramid, right? You look at it and go, wow, should I really have that many carbs? You know what
Sure.
I mean? Or that's just one thing. You look at what you're given on this silver plate. They say, hey, this is how you should eat, or this, and then you realize, oh, that's actually completely backwards, more or less. But
the food pyramid is completely upside down.
Yeah.
What it should be.
totally. And that's the whole thing. So you slowly wake up on each thing, and everyone has that different journey they go on.
But that's science in general.
Yeah.
Science never has it right.
Yeah.
And that's evolution. I believe most real evolutionists know that it's a lie. They know it's bogus. And
Sure.
They just don't have anything better to replace it with. We have to wait literally for a couple generations of people to die off. That's what it's going to boil down to. That have just, everything of their life is filtered through evolution. So we have to have fresh eyes come in who are open to fresh ideas for that paradigm to shift.
Yeah, I agree, because you can't leave them with nothing, right? If you take that all the way, then they're kind of stuck. Or if you have something ready for them, but this is another reasonable explanation for what then people can grasp that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to just take one
Well,
thing
that's
away.
the fear of the alien deception. They're never going to say God created us. That's never going to be an option.
Right. Right.
So the next thing they're going to say, if you look at where we're heading and what they're experimenting with quantum computers, touching into other dimensions and interacting with these entities openly and admitting it.
CERN, D-Wave, all that, sure.
Exactly. They're basically going to say, hey, we've made contact with another dimension of higher entities, which are far superior to us and much more evolved. And they have given us information to create these machines that are going to allow us to download our consciousness and live forever. And similar to what Hitler was doing, Hitler back in World War II was actually working with the Thule Society before he created the Nazi Party, was involved with these occult societies where they're actually downloading information through these channelers. These women were doing automatic writing in ancient Babylonian script.
Okay.
And then they would have other interpreters come in and interpret this Babylonian script into actual blueprints to create working mechanisms and machines.
Wow.
And that's where Hitler got these ideas for creating these UFO craft and flying machines. But supposedly the pilots who flew them had to be channelers themselves. So there was only a limited amount of people who could have these demons interact with them to make these craft work. I don't know how much of all that is true, but these are some of the claims.
Sure.
So if you look at it in that way, I can see in interpreting prophecy. Prophecy talks about the Antichrist will create an image of him, which will be set up in the temple, that will be able to walk and talk and interact like a human, but won't be a human, but will set up this image of the beast.
Okay.
And I believe that's what it'll be. It'll be some sort of machine or robot or something, but it won't actually be a machine. It's basically be like a Ouija board in disguise. You
Sure.
know, it's going to be counterfeit machine, but it's just going to be access to the demonic realm, posing as some superior, off-world, superior race that created us, or is whatever is trying to help us evolve to this next level.
Right. No, and I agree too. Right. They'll say everything, or skirt around it, or dance around it, but they won't actually say. They don't want to say the truth of it. Right. Oh, is this? Or even atheists too. You have to at the end of the day face yourself if you want to say that. If you can, aliens are real and they helped. We've been touched by aliens, or they helped us, or helped us evolve, or gene splicing. It's like that's still a quote unquote intelligent design, or something. They just don't want it to be God, I guess, at the end of the day. Not to make
Yeah, well,
this
that's what's.
preachy. I'm
No,
just
go
saying,
ahead.
just looking at it, that's where I came back more to God in that way, where it was, I saw that with atheism, was just like, that just doesn't, I became more about, I don't know. Well, that was, I have a question lined up for that, and I'll go into it a little bit more, but
Yeah, no, it's kind of one comment on that. Richard Dawkins is kind of amazing. He has absolutely no option for there being a creator or intelligent designer or God of any kind. But when asked, could it be an alien? He's like, yeah, actually, it could be an alien.
yeah,
So he's open to it being aliens, as in, that created us long ago, far away, but
yeah,
not God. So the question is, who created the aliens,
right,
Richard Dawkins?
yeah,
How far are you going to take this back until you have to get to an ultimate creator source? I mean, you're just
right.
pushing the envelope back further. So
Exactly.
it's
Just yeah, that's so much easier, isn't it?
yeah,
Um, I guess I'll be going backwards a little bit with this question, if that's all right. But it was going to be
yeah.
about just musically and the inspirations too. So, do you have any rappers, musicians that you were listening to that you maybe still listen to every once in a while, or anyone that you'd recommend? Were you ever into like Creed, or who did I have? Is NF considered Christian, or he's just Christian and he raps? He doesn't rap about Christian things, or
Who?
um
NF?
NF. I think he's
Or no?
okay.
To be honest, I'm not huge into the music scene, especially recently. I don't listen to a
Yeah.
ton of music. Um, I hear what it may be on the radio, or maybe I see a video, or whatever here and there. But
Yeah.
guys, back in the day, I used to listen to a lot more music. When I was younger, definitely. All the different rappers that are out there. I guess I listened to Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and Third
Okay.
Base, Cypress Hill, and
Sure.
Tribe Called Quest, and
Sure.
um, those are some of my favorite there. Oops, sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
And
Okay. I was, and because I do the Music Matters series, which is how we got to make this connection, is I do get people do like recommend other artists and different artists, but NF was when I
yeah,
first came out with Moses and the Hermit, Act One. What was one of the first songs? The Path, or it's the Road. The Road. I'm sorry. D is going to be so upset. The Road. But as they heard my music, and he was like, "You should listen to NF." So, and that's the only reason he's on my radar. I've only listened to a couple songs, but I think
cool.
he's more of a. I think he's Christian and he raps. I don't think he rap. I haven't seen anything about him rapping anything on the topic of Christianity. If do you know what I mean?
Okay,
He
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. No, there's some really good hip hop artists that are Christian rappers. Like Dirt was one of my most favorite. Uh, he has a whole group called the um, Shadow of the Locust and Dirt. So he's
Okay,
a good one to look into.
I'll have
He's
to
been
write that
around
down. Dirt,
for,
Shadow of the Locust. Okay.
25, 30 years. He's been around for a long time,
Wow.
and still making hip hop to this day. And then there's Pythagoras, the praying mantis. He's a good one to look into. He's out of the UK, and he makes truth music. I've done a collab with him, or a couple of collabs with him,
Okay,
as
because
well
that
as
name sounded familiar. Because it was that on the concocted collabos.
concocted collabos. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
praying mantis, and then also Ninja Scroll. He's
Okay.
another really cool dude and MC that's making some good truth music.
That's awesome. That's great to. who's another one I saw, and I haven't looked into enough of his stuff, but I think his name is KG52.
Yeah, yeah, he's a Christian. He's been around for 30 years.
Okay.
He's an old man like me.
I have him on my board right behind me. It's probably a low enough resolution no one can read it, but he's on my radar too. That's really neat.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, he's
maybe we
pretty
should
good.
talk
He doesn't get into a lot of really, really deep stuff. He's more mainstream, but
Okay.
he's like I said, he's been out there for a long time. Just a good, basic Christian hip hop artist.
Okay. No, that's great to have. It's kind of opened up a whole nother door for me just musically. Listening to you guys. I love it. I appreciate so much what you do, the message that you put out. It's great. It's great to have this message. You guys talk about so much reality. That's what I feel like. So many issues that are going on in the world that you see, and you help connect the dots. I feel like,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's the whole goal, is, everybody's on their own mission or their own journey, and if you read the Bible, it says God seeks man, and God is seeking each person out in their own timing. It's not up for us to save anybody or push anything on anybody, but we want to be links in the chain. We want to just drop seeds, and, when people are ready, this seed may drop in front of them, and they're like, hey, what is this talking about? Let me investigate that a little bit, and that will take them to the next thing, the next thing, next thing, and eventually open all these truths, because I believe the Bible is the glue that holds all these pieces of the puzzle together to actually form a clear picture and understand the world around us. And without that, you're just grasping. You may get pieces of the truth, but you're not forming a clear picture. And that's not to sound like I know everything, whatever, because I don't. But investigate it, and you will see that it connects the dots. It really does fill in the gaps of all the things that we all have questions about.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what I talked about the music. So you're okay, and I want to ask: is your brother into anything musically, or is that just the podcast? Has he been
No,
just
it's a
supportive?
podcast. Ark and Neo. I do a podcast called Digging for the Truth with Ark and Neo, and I do that with my older brother. And he, like myself, just got deep into studying the creation evolution stuff, the fallen angels. And so I really look up to him. He was an inspiration to me because he was my older brother investigating this stuff, and my dad as well, my mom and dad investigating these things. We kind of grew up in a unique church where they were always talking about fringe subjects and angelic warfare and all this stuff. And it wasn't even a Pentecostal church. We weren't speaking in tongues or casting out, nothing like that. It was very laid back, but it was just a Baptist church. But the preacher was just kind of into these fringe topics, so it kind of opened us to investigate this stuff. And then I also, my family, my grandfather or my great grandfather was a Freemason, and my mom inherited like all these paraphernalia from masonry. So
Sure.
I always had that. I was wondered about these things. What do these symbols mean? And all this stuff. So all these things were kind of around me as sort of setting the stage for me to investigate these things. When I went to California to work in the movie industry, the first movie I ever worked in was The Lawnmower Man. And I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Sure.
But it's exactly all the things that I'm talking about today before I even knew it. It's talking about programming, using technology to program, upload technology into somebody's brain.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that all these things that I've put through in my life that has kind of prepared me to where I'm at today. So
that's so cool. I mean, or just the way it connects like that. Yeah, I never would have even thought to put that movie. Yeah, and that's such a good point.
I mean, that's why we came up with the name Destiny Lab, because there were so many things that destined us to get to this point. We're like, it's destiny.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to do this. We have no choice. So that's kind of how we feel.
That's beautiful. That way. That's so cool. That's neat when I feel that way. Sometimes even with my friend DMO, where I was 19 working at McDonald's, and we worked together, and years later, 3-4 years later, I think we started working at the same place, the steel mill local place, and working together, and just that's when we really started to make the music together and come forwards. Yeah, sometimes if it's just destiny, right?
Yeah, exactly. Small world.
That's great. samples in the quotes. I did get to talk about a lot of that now. Oh, so this was one thing we touched on a couple different ways, but what I really liked about with Unseen Zones, you as we were saying that you talk about so many different issues or so many different, what would be maybe quote unquote they're not theories, right? Just conspiracies. But I like that you called out the movie Zeitgeist in that song specifically, and some
Yes.
of the Masonic things in there, or just ways that maybe they were deceiving us. So I did, as I was first, waking up, maybe, or what's the best way to describe it, but that was because with Zeitgeist, it was all it was kind of packaged. It was like 9/11, it was the Federal Reserve, and then it was more about religion, where it helped with the 9/11, and then the Federal Reserve helped open my eyes to those different things. But the religion, I always felt like it could have been a couple different things. So by saying other religions had someone like Jesus, or that these are maybe copycats, I wasn't sure if maybe it was because if you don't understand the context of what people are painting on a wall or a pyramid, if they aren't predicting something happening, as opposed to just saying like, oh, they had someone that lived like that, and and that Christianity is just stealing that, or maybe those could be almost prophetic, or what do you think, or just what are your thoughts on Zeitgeist as well too?
Well, that's a perfect example of how the enemy works. They come in with some truth, and then they add in all this disinformation at the end to steer you the wrong direction.
Yeah.
It's exactly how it always works, And Satan is a mimic. Satan doesn't create anything new. If you look in the Bible, he's always a counterfeit. He's always trying to be like God, presenting himself to be like the truth. And that's how he's so convincing. I mean, let's remember, Satan was able to fool a third of the angels in heaven to fall with him. That's in heaven, in the presence of God.
Right.
How much easier can he deceive you and me on earth?
Sure.
And his, hordes of demons have been around for thousands and thousands of years, perfecting their trickery.
Right.
So, it's always going to be a mimic of truth. It's always going to be this presentation of something new and something real that fits in with exactly what you believe, but it's going to be something else. So
it like slowly reels you in. And, they kind of get hooked, and they're like, and there's one other thing. And it's funny that their viewpoint on religion, and then at the end they're like, we could all live in this one area, and we'll all, they've all like got like the white robes or whatever. Like, I might not be remembering it correctly, but it's like when they were doing that, like, we'll have this whole one world, and it'll be, I was like, wait, that like is where I had to pause. I was just like, this isn't, and even in the second Zeitgeist, they sell it even harder. They're like, all hold hands will be utopia. I was like,
the very thing we're supposed to be against, this one world agenda, with the Illuminati, that's the one world order. That's what all these things that we're supposedly fighting against is what they in the end present as the solution. So it's kind of like the group Anonymous. It's like David Icke. It's like Michael Tsarian. It's like Jordan Maxwell.
Sure.
All these people are researchers of half-truth. They present half-truths. They present truths, but then what is their solution in the end? They literally like, to fight this evil magic, we need to use stronger magic. So what? You need to do the same thing the evil's doing? It's like, there's literally people that go to the Bohemian Grove and protest, not to stop it, but that they want in. We want access to the owl. Give us access to Molech. Why do just the elite have access to Molech? Give us that. It's unbelievable. They're like witches with cauldrons out in the parking lot.
Sure.
And they want in the Bohemian Grove.
Like,
so going back to the Zeitgeist, a little more on that.
Sure.
Look up, investigate, and watch Zeitgeist Debunked by a guy named Chris White. And you will never look at that movie the same. It's unbelievable how much he owns that movie. So that movie was literally created by a bunch of channelers who literally put in the credits different names of all their channels, of their these names that they tap into, and that's what they put in the credits of all these different people who believe this stuff. But it's literally the same people listed like 6 times under 6 different of their channel names.
Okay.
And they say ridiculous claims about, Jesus being born on December 25th, all these things that the devil was, and that there's multiple deities that have come and gone and fallen and did all these things that Jesus did, and born of a virgin, all these things.
Sure.
Some of them are partly true, and some of them are just complete fabrications. But my question would be like, okay, if there's all these fallen angels, not just one, there's multiple ones. Well, who are they mimicking? If there's multiple ones, let's remember these were the fallen angels in heaven who had access to the Word of God, who knew the Messiah was coming. What a better way to counterfeit, is counterfeit him even back in ancient times. They knew this stuff way back in ancient times. They were waiting for the Messiah, who would be born of a virgin,
right,
who would do all these things.
Yeah.
So it's not any surprise that the enemy would counterfeit these things in all these demonic religions,
yeah,
in simpler forms, because that's what people in their heart know is the truth, and they're waiting for these things. And so you get a mimic of it. It literally, it speaks some sort of truth, but it's not the actual truth. It's a counterfeit version of it.
Yeah.
And if you watch that documentary, it's unbelievable how much of all that stuff is made up and complete fabrications, and you'll never look at that documentary. That's why that documentary just dropped and ended, is because nobody talks about it now, because it was completely owned and completely, showed for what it was, which is channeled information and not real history.
See, yeah, and that's a great point, and yeah, thank you for saying it that way too, because like that was one thing that always bugged me, and it's, I'm guilty of not looking, not reading the Bible, or only starting, and that's a question I have for you too as well about the Bible, but it was always something that just it hit me like when I was reading The God Delusion. I was reading it and going through it, and then just something didn't sit right with me. I was just like, okay, these aren't full truths. He isn't, addressing, like we said, micro, macro. He isn't addressing macro evolution. He isn't being completely honest, which I feel like as people, they don't necessarily like the phrase the truth movement, but that's what we're seeking, is the truth or honesty, and that's what we want.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said with
not that any of us got it figured out, but at least we should be searching for it, right?
The pursuit of truth. Yeah, exactly. We're searching for it. And that's how I felt with the zeitgeist thing. I'm glad you said that too. Their solution, you mentioned the one world order too, and I really love that, because this is the new world order, but them trying to usher in a one world order. And then I like what you said with the fallen angels, about how long that was ago, why they wouldn't be planting these seeds of lies, because I thought that too, like, because that's one of the things in zeitgeist that they try saying. They make all these, oh, well, this, it's because of this, or like you said, December 25th. I'm like, well, how is that? How could, isn't it, if you're not going to look at it all the way and be honest with yourself, I feel like, and say, well, maybe these are predictions, not saying like, oh, they had someone they worshipped, they'll say with...
Well, they make ridiculous claims like, they say he was the son of God. Son of God, that's what this was in ancient Egypt. It's like, so what, they were speaking, they're speaking English in ancient Egypt?
Right.
Is that a son of God? I mean, give me a break. They make claims like that. It's just like, just think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and this guy just points all these things out, and he does a debunking on Ancient Aliens. If you watch Ancient Aliens Debunked,
sure.
It's amazing how much he owns that show as well. I mean, this stuff, if you actually research the stuff, it's easy to debunk. It's not even hard.
Yeah.
It's just that, like I said, most people just don't take the time. It takes a little time to do it, but when you do it, you're just like overwhelmed with how bad these people lie, just because they're hoping that no one looks into it. It's kind of like the Democratic Party, that just wants, everybody just jump on board and just follow suit and not think for themselves. They want team players.
Right.
Don't think for yourselves. Don't investigate. Just jump on board, and that's the evil of, that's why people never become Christians. People in the Catholic Church, you're told, don't ask these questions, just believe. And that kills a kid's faith. That kills a kid's faith right there.
Well,
you have to be, if this is true, you should be willing to investigate it. You should be willing to dive into it and ask questions, because the truth will always rise to the surface.
Right.
So,
no. Yeah, I'm writing this down, but before I forget, this is such a great conversation. I had that, what you're saying with Ancient Aliens, I remember this would probably be like 6-7 years ago, living at an older house with my wife, newly married. I'd fall asleep watching Ancient Aliens. I thought that was, this is so unique, it was so interesting. And then I bought the book Chariots of the Gods, I believe it's called, and
Yep.
I had the same thing though. I started to read it and I hit a brick wall where it just like didn't.
Yep.
I don't want to say it didn't resonate with me, but do you know what I mean? If I say that, like I didn't, like I
It
was reading
sounds what it sounds like. I've read the same thing. Exactly what I
Okay.
said to you. What it sounds like is confirmation bias. It sounds like they're
Yes.
coming with a preconceived idea,
Yes.
and they're just trying to confirm their bias all the way through this thing. They're never actually showing real source evidence. They're never actually digging deep.
Right.
It's just like, think about this, and what if this, and this, what ifs, and it's so different from when you investigate a real truth seeker and you actually look into like these Christian documentaries that really dig deep and really show source information, and it's such a difference. And that's what I love about the Christian belief system. It can be tested. You can dig deep. You can ask these questions. And anybody that says you can't either has not done it themselves, or doesn't have the faith, or they've been lied to.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's that's such a great way to word that too, about the confirmation bias. It's easy to connect the dots once you have the whole picture, and you can go, oh well, what if this means this and that means that?
Yep.
And they're telling their own story the way they want to tell it. They already have everything laid out for them. They say, oh, this painting, do you see this? That's a spaceship. That's a UFO. Aliens are real. It's
exactly.
like, okay, you're drawing a lot of, which when before I got to where I am in my life, that was fun. It's like, oh, like you're really reading into things, and like, oh wow, like you're oh, it means something else, or you feel like you're using more of your brain. You're like, oh wow, okay, it's not just this one thing, but
we're truth seekers, and and using this method can oftentimes be disappointing because you're wanting this stuff to be true sometimes. And you're wanting to have this stuff and show evidence and say, look, it's true, but we can't go down that path. We can't fall for that,
right?
Because that's exactly how the enemy works.
Yeah,
he wants his foot in to get you in the door to these what ifs and far off possibilities, and this next thing he's going to be introducing is some occult ritual or some psycho thing that just drags you in even deeper. So we've got to be truth seekers, and we have to test everything and not just confirm our own bias.
I like that. No, that's so true. And that, I have to laugh because, that hits it right on the head. So this is one thing that was on my mind. I had it written down but forgot it and so on. I saw for a little bit, a big thing on YouTube was a lot of the blood over intent. Is that, what is that? Is there anything to that? Is that just another
blood over
like
intent?
A ritual thing?
Seems like I've heard that as well, but I don't know exactly what is it.
Okay, it seemed like it was almost like a pledge, like I don't want to misdescribe it, so for people that are, but it was like it was almost like a blood ritual, like you would cut or make and write a note that you were going to go to, not Valhalla, but like go to the North Pole, or like be, I don't know if it's more of a,
it's crazy what Satan is able to get people, convince them to do. I know a while back there was the denunciation of the Holy Spirit movement, where literally these people are going online and just denouncing the Holy Spirit. Like, why would anyone take the time and effort to do something like this and then post it, of all things to do with your life?
Yeah.
It's such a tragedy, for these people who jump on, or like the water bucket challenge. If you look into the age of Aquarius and the study of the Aquarian movement, that's what this New Age occults want to usher in, is this age of Aquarius. Well, what is the symbol for the age of Aquarius is the water bucket, the water bearer, and he's carrying a giant bucket that he's dumping out. And that's, if you look up age of Aquarius water bearer symbol, you'll find hundreds of these symbols and drawings of this character who's carrying the bucket and dumping it out, because that's what they're trying to usher in. They want to we're in the age of Pisces right now, which is a fish. So they believe Pisces represents the fish god or Jesus, and so they want to usher us into the age of the Aquarian age, where is the water bearer or giver of knowledge type of thing, where we can all evolve and become gods or whatever they think they're going to do.
Right. Okay. Oh, that makes a lot of sense too. Let me see. Talked about that, which I really like. Okay, so I just saw, I missed it because I'm subscribed to Richie from Boston and Richie from Boston too, but I didn't have the notifications on. You guys were talking about fallen angels. What is there anything on your radar right now that you're paying attention to specifically, as far as like conspiracies or anything, like people, a lot of people are talking about Q, or is there anything, you have your song Robophobia talking about, you know, transhumanism, and you have other songs too, but is there anything new or different on your radar, or anything that you're looking into and have called BS on, like what
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely like this next album I'm putting out is a lot about transhumanism, kind of connecting the dots from ancient occultism and the idea of evolution, and that we're evolving into the alien deception and the original sin, and then on into the next costume and disguise I believe they're going to wear, which is, and I believe they're already wearing, is technology. Okay. So I believe they're going to pose as technology. They're already interacting with people through these D-Wave quantum computers.
Sure.
And presenting themselves as, higher entities of some sort. I'm not sure exactly where that's going to lead, but the people that are involved with these things definitely are also involved with the occult. You can see it within their symbols and the logos that they use, that they understand this language. That's the language of the occult, is symbology. So when you see a serpent biting its tail, that's the symbol of theosophy, which is complete Luciferianism. And so these people, that's no accident. And if you go to CERN, they same thing. They're using all these alchemical symbols and sigils all over everything. It's like,
sure,
you think that's just an accident, coincidence?
Oh, right, totally. And Richie from Boston is one of the, I found him through ODD, but he was big on the rituals that they're performing before CERN and all those different things going on there. He definitely was one of the first ones to bring in the Christian element to all this and exposing the evil as well.
Yeah.
I used to go on his videos and show more love. I haven't been doing that lately. I try to pop in here and there. There's so many new channels and everyone's got so many different ideas, but he's always been doing a great job at that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, there's so many things to investigate. It's hard to investigate everything. I tend to gear more toward the spiritual realm because that's always just been my take, and my big thing is I want to lead people to Christ ultimately, and so I want to expose the deceptions and the things that hold people back. 1 John 4:1 tells us to expose these and not have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but to expose them. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is expose these things. And like I said, many of these things seem true at first.
Yeah.
It seem they could be real and tangible, and so, but it's hard. I can't, like the flat Earth thing is something I'm still on the fence with.
Sure.
I totally believe NASA is complete lying. They're all occultists, just like all these other, groups and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of disinformation as well presented from the flat Earth side.
Okay.
So it's like, it's like weighing these scales. Okay, how much is which one's giving them more disinformation? But that's also part of the game of the enemy, to plant disinformation of something that's true. So you've got to filter through all these things, and I believe something like this should be able to be something that can be proven. Unlike evolution, for instance, long ago, far away, it's like it's always going to be a debate issue.
Yeah.
Where I feel like the flat Earth, it seems like it's something that we could prove. If we had boots on the ground of actually, let's go to the ice wall. Let's send drones over it. Let's raise funds to send a rocket high enough to absolutely prove that,
totally.
Unless you have a fisheye lens that you can't see. So I've got lots of questions, and I see, what I'm leaning toward right now is a geocentric model.
Sure.
After watching, I don't know if you've seen the documentary called The Principle, but The Principle.
It's on my radar. I haven't seen it, but it's been
suggested.
See it,
man.
Okay, The Principle.
The Principle was put out a little over 5 years ago, right before the flat Earth became a thing.
Okay.
And the guy who made The Principle, it's all about geocentrism, and he had actually on his it's a really good documentary, and you actually have to pay to do it because very expensive to make. He actually has Lawrence Krauss on there, Michio Kaku, some of these famous atheist people on his documentary admitting that they have a thing that they call the axis of evil, which is a math, like basically a pattern that they see over and over again that pops up in their astronomy readings, showing that the Earth is at the center of of our universe, proving that Earth is at the center of the universe.
Okay,
and that's why they call it the axis of evil, because they don't like to talk about that because that would show special creation.
Yeah,
and then it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Like if they look at the math, it could be 50% geocentrism, and it could be 50% or actually going the sun's at the center, heliocentric, but they just choose heliocentric because that fits with their worldview,
Sure, yeah.
But actual evidence shows that it is just as easily geocentric. So what this guy said is all those guys, and I investigated this, once his documentary came out, every one of those atheists that were on there came and denounced it and said, we were tricked by going on this.
Sure.
Don't watch this documentary. Don't look into it.
Yep.
We were tricked. It's all a lie.
Okay.
And they all denounced it. And then someone, Rick Delano, who's the maker of this film, claims that someone spent a lot of money attaching the phrase flat Earth to the word geocentrism.
Okay.
So if you go to Google Trends, you can actually look this up. Right after the principle came out, all of a sudden, flat Earth was like a thing, and he claims it's because, and you can look it up, that if you look up flat Earth, it says geocentric. If you look up geocentric, it says flat Earth. It's like they try to attach it to it. Like I said, it's kind of this thing of maybe they're just trying to make these people look stupid, saying, oh, the Earth's flat, everybody knows that's stupid, so we're going to make anybody who believes in geocentrism think the same thing. And it kind of backfired because now this flat Earth movement just blew up.
Yeah,
because there's just a lot of unknowns, and I like I said, I got lots of questions, but I see some disinfo from both sides, especially coming because I am working in the special effects industry. I know how CGI works and what's possible and what's not, and I see a lot of claims that it was all CGI, and I know that's not how CGI. I mean, the government doesn't have better CGI than the working professionals. They maybe have better other technologies, but something like CGI, the movie industry people are the best at that. Sure. And they're literally hired by the government on a regular basis to do top secret things and have to sign off on non-disclosure things to create things for the government. So they do create things for the government, but the government doesn't have better CGI technology, I believe, than the actual working professionals.
Yeah. No, and that's a good comparison too. And I think where you're saying it too, it's funny you brought up flat Earth because I was gonna do my best not to, because
I most of my friends, probably half my friends believe it and half my friends don't. So I don't like the division it causes. That's one thing I don't like on either side. We shouldn't be divided. That shouldn't be something we should be divisive about.
No,
it's not a salvation issue, So I think we should be willing to investigate it, be open-minded at it. It could totally be possible. I mean, if all these other lies that they put out there are possible, they could totally do this. I mean, so be willing to investigate these things. Don't just throw it out. Yeah. And I'm still, like I said, I'm still trying to decide, because I see a lot of things on both sides that it's a balancing act, man. So
and I feel like that's the healthiest way to go through this process of searching for the truth and uncovering it, and so you can go to bed at night. That's just not to be married to either way, and you're just and that's like, as each topic we've talked about, that's kind of how it's been, right? Where it's like, I was talking about the ancient aliens, and then start looking into it more, and the gods of the church, and then you hit a wall where you're like, well, and I think that's just the best way to go about it, is to have an open mind to look into it in the first place. Yep. And then where you end up is where you end up. I don't know. I like that you were saying about your music. It isn't preaching as much as it's almost it's storytelling, and then the people will find it that it's meant for, or if that's the right way to say that.
Yeah, no, I say that in one of my songs. Don't believe a word I say. Investigate these things for yourself, and that's what I want people to do. Don't believe me. Do your own research, you're investigating, but don't jump on the bandwagon of anything. Test these things and run them through the truth filter of the Bible and see if they come out the other side, as true. Because, like I said, Satan is a great counterfeit. He can present himself as something that seems so real, and it's hard to know. So, and it's okay to say I don't know at this time. I'm not sure. I'm still looking. So I think a lot of people are afraid to do that.
Yeah,
and
definitely. The truth filter. I wrote that down. I like that. Putting it through the truth filter. That's really good.
Yep.
Just a couple things real quick. Sorry to the chat. I haven't been really responding. I'm really enjoying this conversation, and thank you all for showing up here and leaving your comments. I've been trying to tap in and type where I can, but I'm really just enjoying this conversation with Ark. And I've linked before their website for you guys to go check out their stuff and a way to support them. And it's hard, we're underground as far as music and our message. So those streams, I'll throw the Spotify in there too, and shares and playlists. I mean, sometimes everyone doesn't know that, so if I'm just saying it out loud right now. Thank you for all the people that showed up for this. Are you good for time, Ark? I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm good, man. I work from home, so
okay.
I'm good.
Because this is awesome. I only have like a couple more things planned, but we were talking about. I'll tie these two together, but I think I had that with. I was born and raised Catholic, and it can be easier to be pushed away from that religion, that part, of the process almost, and. It wasn't like sit down and read passages from the Bible and how does it affect you or what does it mean. It was always kind of just do this, do that, more ceremonious, and then that was really where I was left with. And I think being younger, it's so easy to fall out of that. It's like, well, I really don't. I already don't like being told what to do, and now there's like extra steps and ways to do it, and. I don't know. It's really tough, and it was really easy to fall out of. Do you I went, listening to your music is very powerful, and understanding what's happening in the world these days. I did grab a Bible and was going through it a little bit more. The one I have actually is like a new Catholic Bible, and I didn't necessarily like, as I keep saying, I'm probably just a quitter and don't want to admit it, but I was reading it and it was like New Catholic. And it was almost not like translated for you, where they would have a passage and they'd have a little annotation about what it could mean or what it does mean or why they changed certain passages. So, do you have a Bible that you recommend that what you draw from? King James, or could you just maybe go in on that if that's?
Yeah, I mean, the King James definitely is I believe the most reliable, but it's not necessarily the easiest to read either. There's the New King James, and there's the English, is the English Standard Edition or something like that. So I mean, there's a lot of really good interpretations and scriptures that have been put out as different Bibles. I mean, I know a lot of people hate the NIV. But I actually got a lot out of reading the NIV, even though some of the verses kind of are not completely right. It's really easy to read the NIV.
Okay.
But there's other types of Bible that are good, like like I said, the New English Standard Version or the New King James is good.
Okay.
It's just a little bit. It's like the King James, but just a little easier. And people that say, the Bible's been changed so many times or whatever, it's like, no, it hasn't. It's like it was originally written in Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew. All those three languages, depending on what you're going to. And so we have one layer to go through. When we can go back to the original Strong's Concordance and compare each original language to how it was interpreted and see exactly how it's interpreted in every different release of these interpretations and that are put out there, so you can actually compare them. So people that say, "Oh, it's been reinterpreted so many times, we don't even know the original," that's just hogwash. Yeah, you can't trust the Bible. You can't trust any ancient scripture because we have way more fragments of the Bible than we do Plato or any of these other ancient people that everybody trusts.
Yeah, and that's a great way to word it too. I feel like and that's how I've tried to approach it too. Is that it's ancient text. So if people are trying to take it maybe literally, or how they want to pull from it, is just that it's ancient text. Yeah, I won't elaborate too much. I won't do it justice, but I like what you said. And
and you don't have to start in the beginning. It's not like it's written from beginning to end type of thing. I would actually start in the book of John and find out who Jesus is. I think it is important to understand the Genesis story to actually understand why we're sinners and how sin entered into the world.
Mm-hmm.
But all after Genesis to the all the other stuff, that's kind of more just history, and a lot of people get caught up in that history and then they just stop. I think if you start in the New Testament, you start like in the book of John, that actually explains who's Jesus. What is his claims? What did he do? And how did he fulfill the scriptures? That's what is really most important to the Christian walk and the Christian faith, is understanding who Jesus is. And that's why Satan is so key on changing who Jesus is and changing the idea of the Messiah. And that was his whole idea of polluting the bloodline, is he knew the Messianic bloodline had to be pure from Adam all the way to the Messiah. So that's why they're trying to disrupt the bloodline of the Messiah. So the Messiah couldn't be born.
Okay.
That was their whole point.
No, I think that's a good way to look at it. Speaking of the Bible, okay, this just popped into me as we're talking like this. Have you had any Mandela effects with the Bible yourself? Anything with that? Is that on your radar? You're not really...
Yeah, well, that's another one that's really strange to me because, definitely I can relate to a lot of the different Mandela effects out there. But I just don't trust my memory enough to say, yes, absolutely, this is how it was.
I know.
I'm just like, I don't know, it could be totally something else, and I just misremembered it, But it is interesting that all of us misremember these things. And I have a little bit in explanation for some of it. Like, for instance, a whole... Luke, I am your father.
Sure.
If I was just coming to you and I didn't, and I just said, I am your father, you'd be like, who are you talking about? I'm your father. It's like you got to put some backdrop to it. So when you say Luke, I am your father, you're like, oh, you're talking about Star Wars.
Right.
Where in the actual film, it's not like, Vader had to explain who he was talking to.
Yeah.
It was visual. You knew who he was talking to.
Yeah, he's looking right at him, and that's one thing I think too. Like, I don't trust my memory enough, and my wife's not here, but she would totally testify that my memory is not accountable for, reliable enough for something like that. And I think too, I'm somewhat of a movie buff. I think that too, they play the clip, that they're saying is the Mandela effect, and I'm like, I'm so torn. I'm like, no, he could be saying, no, I am your father, or it doesn't have to, those are so tough to say. Like that's like you're saying about, being scientific, testable, repeatable, verifiable. Those aren't the best ones, or like Sex in the City, Sex and the City. I mean, that's the way not the human languages, but the way we speak with a lot of us, and instead of saying I'm sitting in a chair, if you say I'm sitting in a chair, or the so that it can be slurred or kind of slanged enough where it's like, I'm not gonna say, but it's still it can be tough. You tie it in with CERN and what they're trying to do with D-Wave, or it's like it does it slowly create its own bias? But I think people have certain ones that affect them the most. So if someone's like, oh, the fruit of a loom did or didn't have a cornucopia with it, that I'm a boxer's guy, I don't wear briefs, I don't know what you're talking, or it's maybe affected by certain people where what was one of them, some of them, okay, I asked my mom a bunch, but she has like a really good memory, so she hasn't really been fazed by any of them. The only one I saw her think about was the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz having a gun at one point. He just has like a pistol. And
I saw that. I don't remember that either.
Yeah, so but it's so quick, and like for that era, is he going to start shooting flying monkeys out of the sky? Probably not. So it might have just been in there, but
there's definitely some weird ones that I can totally relate to, like C-3PO's leg being silver. I'm like, I don't remember that. And,
sure.
There are a lot of them where I just definitely head scratchers, or the Lucy, you got some splaining to do. that would never happen, or Ed McMahon passing out the big checks. My memory is all that stuff happened. So But at the same time, it's like, if our reality is really being changed, like for instance, if the Bible is really being changed, then you should be able to go to the biggest Bible scholar out there and say, did it say lie with the lion and the lamb, or the lion and the wolf? Which is it? And he should be able to set the records. Everyone should be in agreement. If we all live in the same reality, we should all remember it the exact same way. And that's just not what happens. It's a split down the middle. Some people believe it this way, some people believe it the original way. So it's like, I can't just, and also I think touching into the Word of God and saying that the Word of God can be changed, I think is a very dangerous path to go down as well.
Okay.
Because if you can change the Word of God, somebody could come out and manipulate it. And I mean, I don't know. It's just, I'm not completely convinced of all that stuff. But like I said, a lot of it boils down to my own not trusting my own.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, the Bible are tough ones, because what was the other one? It's about the skins, or what the wine is kept in. I thought the word was changed, or I thought there was one more Mandela effect for the Bible. I remember it being
I think there are a few, but I just remember the lion and the lamb. But
yeah,
I think there are a couple claims. I can't remember all of them.
Right, but no, just talking about it, that one popped into my mind. Are you actively working on this? We'll go back to music here. So this is for Shift Your Paradigm. I had mixed notes. For Shift Your Paradigm, do you have a release date? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I'm literally recording my last song on it.
Okay.
So we've got, I'm working on the 17th song. I'm shooting for maybe around May or June. So just here very soon.
Yeah, I know the rest of the process can be so much longer. It isn't as simple as just record it down.
Yeah, I've had a lot of obstacles during this journey where things have popped up in my life personally, and technology, just all kinds of things. So, but I never try to get me down. I just say, hey, all in God's timing, destiny meant to be. When it's supposed to come out, that's when it's going to come out. So that's why, I don't set some early release date a year beforehand. I just say, hey, when it's done, and I know it's going to be done. Right. I'll tell you like a couple months before.
Right. And the way you want it too. So you could record it, mess with it, and don't like something and redo it, or
sure.
That's the thing. And speaking about the music, I'm doing the Music Matters series, and your first couple albums you dropped are 2011. So it took, what are we saying, 9 years for me to just 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah.
For me to find you and hear about you. So that's so tough too, or even Vinny Paz, End of Days, or certain songs. Like, I'm just finding out about these guys or groups or artists now, so 10 years, 20 years later. So
no, that's just crazy. Where people are just beginning to find their music. I actually took almost 5 years off after I put out those first albums.
Yeah,
I stopped making music for a while there because I had some business issues. I got caught up and I just had no time for music, so I wasn't promoting or talking about music for several years there in between, and then I came out this fourth album. So that's what we're working on now.
That is so cool. And then, so you're working with movies. Are you still into movies at all? Have anything?
No, I do work as a full-time artist. So what I do now is I'm a sculptor and a designer. So I sculpt latex masks. I make characters, and I make molds, and I do painting for different collectors. So people that collect statues, I'll take these statues and paint them. Like right now, I'm working on this Andre the Giant bust. Somebody sent me.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'll have to send a pic of that with my buddy.
Yeah, here's a mask that I sculpted recently for a Distortions Unlimited, which is a company out there. And this is a Leonidas bust that we put out. So just all kinds of things like that I cast up in resin, and then I sand them down, paint them, and build them for collectors.
Wow, that is so cool. That's another talent. Holy cow. No, that's great.
No, it's fun.
That is so cool. Let me double check, because that's really, those are the big ones. We got to talk about the music and so on, and the Bible. A lot of that is what I really wanted to pick your brain on too. And this was awesome.
Any questions in the chat?
Let me see. I think a couple. Let me pull it up.
Maybe not.
People. People
We only have
commenting
five
about the
people.
oh, Jesus is Osiris.
Yeah, I just say go ahead and believe that, but just watch uh, uh, Zeitgeist Debunked by Chris White, and then let's talk.
Yeah, I'm excited to check that out too. I feel like I got a lot of homework from this from this
You're gonna
conversation.
love.
There's so many cool things to check out. But a lot of people are on the same page and already where you're at. You know, giving you a lot of love for the music. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
really
no,
good.
much appreciated. I really appreciate all the support and all the people that do, get what we're doing and understand how important this stuff is to expose and tell the masses about, because the masses are literally being set up for grand illusion unless this stuff is exposed. So that's the goal.
Yeah, I agree. And with the work that you're doing, what you're putting out there, it it helps, and it your work is so easy to share with other people. And you're not vulgar. You have a real message. You speak truth. I mean, who can't share that with someone they care about? That
Yeah.
even just for the sake of hip hop.
Yeah.
If you like hip hop, I mean, you guys have awesome beats. You're great with your lyrics. Everything is on point. So if someone were to hear it and then the message clicked, I think they would just be as satisfied as anyone else. I mean, I don't know how much, I try. It's so hard to promote myself in a way or in the lane that they want. As the modern all the different SoundCloud stuff. It's like the trap music and rap about women and money and stuff. It's like I'm married with two kids. That's not who I am. I got a
Yeah.
different message. That's
Yep. Yep.
no, it's
No, it is. It's hard to put a exact genre on it, because even if you say Christian music, a lot of the Christian music out there is just either not Christian or it's just not good. I mean, there
yeah,
are definitely some really talented Christian artists for sure, but a lot of the mainstream stuff is not a proper representation, in my opinion, of the Christian walk or belief system, or even Christian hip hop in general. There's a
sure.
lot better artists in the underground than there are in the mainstream, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. A lot of truth where can be spoken in the underground. I feel like, and then the
Yeah.
living soul, the living soil is commenting too that I can listen to Destiny Lab when my daughter's in the car. I've done the same thing. So no, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's crazy. We get contact from people like in their 70s and 80s saying this connects me and my son and grandkids all together. So it's amazing. How we hear from so many different people how it's helped them out, and a lot of people that were in the new age have gotten out of the new age through listening to our music, out of the occult. I've got even that. I don't know if you've seen the Satanist versus Christian rap battle that I
Yeah,
did.
yeah, that
But
was really
yeah,
cool.
actually, a Satanist approached me, and we did a rap battle, and he ended up repenting and asking God for forgiveness. It's really miraculous story. So you can check that out at our YouTube page. We've got a recording of that song and all the songs we did after that. So it's amazing how God can use music.
Yeah,
And a lot of people will listen to music where they're not going to listen to you talk about this stuff,
right.
conspiracy wise. They just don't want to hear it. But you
Yeah,
have a song playing in the background, you're planting those seeds. So that's one of the reasons we got into it, because I tried to talk to people about this stuff and they just didn't want to hear it, or they just wouldn't listen or give me the time to fully explain. And so
right.
that's why I wanted to lay it out in the music so I could say everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful way to express yourself with people in a way that isn't it isn't always direct, right? Even if I feel like even if you were in the car with someone playing your own music, and they were here, it's a totally different interaction than if you were to just sit there and tell them the certain things, that you believe or that or
Yeah.
to have that conversation. It's great. It's so
Yeah. I mean,
awesome.
I try not to be preachy. I ask a lot of questions, that are kind of open-ended questions, just that appeal to all of us,
Yeah.
and all of us should ask these questions. All of us should wonder these things, and then I use a lot of sound clips in the music of different people, from both perspectives, and so people can hear, hear all that, and know that this stuff isn't just made up. These are real quotes from people. These are real people saying these things, and so
Yeah, it goes a long way. I love that you do that. Even just loving hip hop, the samples, but using those quotes. I know I almost laughed out loud. I was snowblowing and I had your album on, and it was the part where I think it's weird science, but it's that they're saying kind of just, oh, what about modern evolutionists, and a rock hit Earth and it had these life form, cells on it, and that's what brought life to planet Earth and all this stuff.
yeah,
And I laughed out loud while I was snowblowing. I probably looked like I was crazy to my neighbors, but it just I'm like, wow, that's what they're saying,
Yeah.
And I'm trying to navigate that. I got daughters. They're 4 and 6, and that's what they're walking into. And my wife and I have talked, and I'm gonna I'm gonna go because I broke free from that, so I'll be there to help them break through all that. But to
Yep.
get the grades and play the game, I bite my tongue and I kind of grit my teeth when I have to hear,
Yeah.
how far away the moon is and eclipses, and I'm just like,
Oh
well,
yeah.
I'm just like, well, this, I got to get them through their part.
Yep.
I did it, that's all I can hope for, and those are things too, and then I know that's what, just kind
Yeah,
of,
it's tough because exactly. We're being conditioned, and unless you answer their questions properly, you can't even pass the class.
Right.
So you've got to pretend to believe these lies. But hey, answer those questions how they want them. That's fine.
yeah,
As long as you pass the class, as long as you know the truth,
right.
God knows. It's all good.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. And no, this was such an awesome conversation. Thank you again for being on here. This is so cool.
Oh, I appreciate it, man.
I love
Definitely
it.
love coming on and talking to people. So
That's so cool, and get your message out there, and planting all these seeds, even for some of the people who are just on my channel from some of the Music Matters stuff, or maybe casual, hopefully that they go check out your stuff. And do you have I'll drop the website that you have. I'll put that one more time too, and that's got a lot of the Patreon on there, your albums, CD Baby, and so on. Anything you wanted to talk about?
No, just DestinyLab.com is our website, and then we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/DestinyLab. If you want to see like more behind the scenes type stuff and get sneak peeks of some of these new songs coming out, you can get a lot of like behind the scenes stuff there if you join there. And then we have a lot of different T-shirts and things on our website as well. And then we're doing a podcast that I do, of course, like I was talking earlier, with my brother, Digging for the Truth with Ark and Neo. We are
Sure.
planning on doing more episodes there. It's like I've been so busy doing just different interviews and trying to finish up this last album. I haven't had as much time, but we are going to be doing more episodes there as well. So you can look that up on our YouTube /Destiny Lab and check that out. We've got dozens of videos as well, and that's another really great way to witness to people. It's not just with the audio. You add the visuals to it. It just adds another layer of understanding and making these things actually click and make sense when you watch them and listen to them at the same time.
Definitely. And then I know for the description of this video too, I got most of the links for your Spotify and SoundCloud, the website. I just dropped the website link one more time for people to go through. But no, that is that hat? Is that a new Destiny Lab hat? Is that a?
Yeah, we got hats there. We got shirts,
Okay.
hoodies, phone covers. So
That's so
all
cool.
kinds of stuff there.
And that was where I saw the coffee mug. You got the alien with the face crossed through, like that anti-alien,
Yep.
like that. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this. And I think this is how we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Matty, for all the support and spreading the news about the music. It's definitely much appreciated, and really, really appreciate that support.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks to everyone that popped into the chat. We got someone just popped in, so they'll have to go through it and catch the stream after I shut this down. But
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in.
yeah,
Appreciate
for
it.
sure. Enjoy the rest of your day, Ark.
All right, you too. Later. See you.